She looked me straight in the eye and said, "You never did enough for me." Not a thank you, not a hint of warmth, just those words, sharp and cold. After everything I gave up, everything I carried for her, it felt like someone had pulled the floor out from under me. I didn't argue, I just stopped. Have you ever felt something like this? My name is Elaine Turner. I'm 58 years old, and I've lived in Columbus, Ohio my whole life. I'm a retired nurse, a mother of one, and someone who thought love and sacrifice would always be enough. The day my daughter told me otherwise, I was 22 when I had her. I still remember the smell of antiseptic in the delivery room, the dim fluorescent lights, and the cold grip of fear in my chest. But the moment they placed her in my arms, everything softened. Her skin was wrinkled and warm, and her cry was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. I named her Lauren. I thought we'd be inseparable. Her father left when she was 2, walked out on a rainy Tuesday morning, saying he needed time to find himself. I never heard from him again. I didn't chase him. I didn't have the time. I had rent due and a baby with a fever. So I pushed my tears down and got to work. I became a nurse. The night shifts were long. The pay was never enough, but it kept the lights on. I'd get home as the sun came up, feet aching, uniforms smelling of rubbing alcohol and latex gloves. Sometimes, Lauren would still be asleep. I'd just sit on the edge of her bed and watch her breathe for a while. That was my moment of peace. There were birthdays I missed because of double shifts. Parent-teacher meetings I rushed to, still in scrubs. I always felt like I was half a step behind the other mothers, less polished, more tired. But I tried. God knows, I tried. We lived in a small apartment above a laundromat for the first 10 years. The smell of detergent and steam used to creep through the floorboards. I learned to fall asleep to the hum of dryers. Lauren used to draw little hearts on my lunch containers with Sharpies. "Love you, Mummy," she'd write. I kept every single one of those lids in a box under my bed. Money was always tight. I remember counting coins at the grocery store checkout, pretending I was budgeting so Lauren wouldn't feel embarrassed. She never asked for much, but when she did, even something small like a new pair of shoes, I'd feel this pang in my stomach like I was failing her. I never dated again. I told myself I was too busy, but really, I just didn't want to bring more instability into her life. I gave her everything I had, my time, my energy, my patience. Even on the days I had nothing left, I still showed up. I thought she knew, that she was smart, independent. By the time she was in high school, she barely needed help with homework. I used to sit across the table pretending to read while watching her work. Her hair always fell in front of her face when she was concentrating. I wanted to freeze those moments. She got into college on a scholarship. I was proud, so proud. I cried after dropping her off at the dorm. She hugged me and said, "I'll call you every day." I smiled and nodded, knowing she wouldn't. She didn't. Not at first, anyway. I thought distance would make her miss me. I thought maybe she'd look back and realize how much I tried to give her the best life I could. But calls became texts. Texts became rare. She was busy. I told myself that was normal. I kept myself busy, too. Picked up more shifts. Joined a book club I didn't even enjoy. I missed her laugh. I missed her presence. But I never said anything. I didn't want to make her feel guilty. Even when she moved back to the city, she didn't come around much. Sometimes weeks would pass without a word. I chalked it up to adulthood, to her finding her own rhythm. That's what we raised them to do, right? To live on their own. But a small part of me always waited for a phone call, for a knock on the door, for her to sit beside me again and say, "Thanks, Mom." I remember. That moment never came. And then one day, it all came out loud, cold, and sharper than I ever expected. It started slowly, so slowly, I almost didn't notice it. At first, it was the little things. Lauren would cancel plans, last-minute dinner dates, weekend visits, always with a soft excuse. Work ran late, got stuck in traffic, something came up. I understood. Life is busy. I told her it was okay. Then her tone started to change. She began speaking to me like I was someone she had to tolerate, not someone she wanted to talk to. Short replies, flat voice, a sigh here and there when I asked questions. I stopped asking as much. I remember once, I brought over a casserole I used to make when she was a kid, her favorite chicken and rice with crushed crackers on top. She barely looked up from her phone and said, "I don't eat that stuff anymore." She didn't even open the foil. I carried the dish back home, still warm in my hands. She never raised her voice. She didn't need to. The silence did more damage than words could. I'd call and leave voicemails that were never returned. I started checking my phone more than usual, just in case I missed her. I never did. On her birthday that year, I mailed her a card with a handwritten note and a necklace I'd saved up for. She texted thanks 2 days later. Just one word, no call, no mention of the note. When we did speak, it felt like walking on eggshells. I'd tell her about a new book I was reading, or a recipe I tried, and she'd reply with, "That's nice," or "Cool." It was like she was always half listening, her attention somewhere else, somewhere better. She stopped asking about me, never asked how work was going, or if I was sleeping well, or if I was lonely. And yes, I was lonely, but I never said it out loud. I didn't want to sound needy. Sometimes I'd scroll through old photos on my phone, ones where she was hugging me, or we were laughing in the kitchen, covered in flour. I'd stare at those frozen moments and wonder where that girl went. The one who used to braid my hair when I was sick. The one who used to say, "You're my favorite person." I tried making excuses for her. She's tired. She's overwhelmed. She's just figuring life out. I reminded myself she was raised to be independent, and maybe I did too good a job at that. That still, it hurt. The kind of quiet hurt you carry in your chest when no one's around. I'd hear friends talk about lunch dates with their daughters, or weekend visits with the grandkids, and I'd smile politely. But inside, it felt like I was missing something I once had and didn't know how to get back. One night, I left a message just saying I loved her. Nothing more. Just that. She never replied. Not even a heart emoji. And yet, I still hoped. Until one day, she said something I couldn't ignore. Something that changed everything. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. She had agreed to come over for lunch. That in itself felt like a small victory. I woke up early, cleaned the house top to bottom, and set the table with the old dishes she used to like, the ones with the little blue flowers around the rim. I made baked salmon, steamed vegetables, and even her favorite lemon pie. The whole place smelled like citrus and garlic and warm sugar. She arrived late. No hug, just a quick hey. Her phone was in her hand, thumb scrolling, barely glancing up. I smiled anyway. I always did. We sat down to eat, and for a while it felt okay. She picked at her food. I tried to keep conversation going. I asked about work, her apartment, if she'd gone on any vacations lately. She gave short answers, her voice flat. Then she looked up, pushed her plate aside, and said, "Can we just talk?" I nodded. My heart tapped a little harder. She leaned back, arms crossed. "I've been thinking a lot lately," she said, "and I just, I don't know. I feel like you weren't really there for me growing up." The room suddenly felt colder. Blinked, unsure if I heard her right. "What do you mean?" She shrugged. "I mean, you were always working. You missed things. Recitals, school trips. I always felt like I was raising myself." I stared at her, my hands still around my glass of water. My mouth opened, then closed. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator behind her. I didn't know what to say. She kept going. "You weren't emotionally available. You did what you had to, sure, but it never felt like you really cared." Asterisk, asterisk, I felt something tighten inside me. Not anger, not right away. Just this slow, squeezing kind of ache, like my ribs had drawn in to protect my heart. "I worked nights to keep us afloat," I said quietly. "I stayed up with you when you were sick. I gave up everything to raise you." She shrugged again. "Yeah, but that's what moms are supposed to do. That's not special. That's just the bare minimum." The bare minimum. That phrase stayed in the air, thick and sour. I looked at her face, and I didn't recognize it. Her eyes were the same color as mine, but colder, more distant. I couldn't see the little girl who used to hold my hand while we crossed the street. I didn't cry. I just sat there, staring at the lemon pie on the table, untouched. The whipped cream had started to melt. She stood up, brushed off her pants. "Anyway, I just wanted to be honest. I think we both have stuff to work on." I nodded. I didn't trust my voice enough to speak. She left not long after that. I watched her walk to her car from the window. The same car I helped her buy. She didn't look back. I cleaned up slowly, put the dishes away, wiped the counters, wrapped the pie in foil, and slid it into the fridge. I moved on autopilot. That night, I sat on the couch and stared at the blank TV screen. I kept hearing her voice over and over. "You never really cared." The bare minimum. I had never felt so unseen in my entire life. And somewhere in that silence, something inside me quietly shifted. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the room lit only by the glow of the streetlight through the blinds. My chest felt heavy, not like grief, not exactly, just still, like something had finally settled at the bottom. All day, I kept thinking she might call. Maybe she'd realize what she said. Maybe she'd text us, "Sorry, I didn't mean it that way." But my phone stayed quiet. I checked the battery anyway, just in case. It was full. The silence wasn't from the phone, it was from her. When it started to hit me, not all at once, but in slow, steady pieces. I had spent so many years trying to earn her love, like it was something I had to constantly prove or keep topping. I cooked, called, remembered every birthday, every little preference. I gave and gave, thinking someday she'd see, but that day never came. And in the middle of that quiet night, I stopped hoping for it. I sat up in bed, pulled the old quilt around my shoulders, and went to the kitchen. The light flickered for a second before staying on. I opened the fridge, saw the pie still wrapped in foil, untouched. I didn't feel like eating it. I didn't feel much at all, so I poured a glass of water, sat at the table alone, and stared at the chair where she had sat just hours before. I could still see the imprint in the cushion. Her voice echoed faintly in my mind. "That's just the bare minimum." I think I stopped needing her approval in that moment. Not out of anger. Not out of spite. Out of tiredness, a tiredness I had been carrying for years without realizing it. I folded the note I had written her for next week, the one I'd planned to mail with a small care package. I slipped it back into the drawer. I turned off the porch light. I didn't check my phone again. And for the first time in a long while, I felt a strange kind of quiet settle over me. Not sadness, not peace, either, just space. And in that space, I decided I was done chasing what never came. I didn't make a big decision. There was no dramatic vow, no angry outburst. I just stopped. The next morning, I woke up early like I always did. But I didn't reach for my phone to check if she had messaged. I made tea, sat by the window, and listened to the birds. The world kept moving. So did I. I stopped texting her first. No good mornings, no reminders about flu shots or rent due dates. I didn't send the link to that recipe I thought she'd like. I let the silence grow roots. When I passed a cute scarf in the store that she might have liked, I didn't pick it up. I walked past it without turning back. That felt new. I still lived my day's laundry, groceries, watering the plants, but something had shifted. I no longer centered my routine around the hope of hearing from her. It felt strange at first, like forgetting something important. But over time, that emptiness stopped feeling like a wound. It just became space. I didn't reach out for her birthday that year. That was the first time in 32 years. I baked a small cake for myself instead, chocolate, with too much frosting. I ate it in my pajamas while watching an old movie. It was quiet and okay. The hardest part was fighting the muscle memory. Seeing something on TV and wanting to tell her. Hearing a song that reminded me of her and almost reaching for the phone. I had to retrain my heart to sit still. When people asked about her, I smiled and said, "She's doing fine." Then I changed the subject. Some folks noticed, most didn't. I stopped keeping track of our last conversation. I stopped rereading her old messages. I even deleted a few. I donated the things she'd left at my place to books, the old hoodie, the mug that said "Best Daughter Ever." It sat on the top shelf for years, untouched. I wrapped it gently and left it at the donation center. I didn't look back. There were no loud goodbyes, just a quiet decision to no longer keep knocking on a closed door. I didn't do it to hurt her. I did it to save myself. I let her be, let her live her version of things. I stopped explaining mine, and as I gave her that space, I slowly started reclaiming mine. I began spending more time in the garden, started walking in the evenings again, cooked just for myself, simple meals, but made with care. I didn't expect her to notice, or to come running back. That wasn't the point. I wasn't punishing her. I was finally choosing me, and somewhere, in that silence, something began to heal softly, slowly, on its own. The first week passed without anything unusual. She didn't notice my silence, or, if she did, she didn't say a word. I didn't expect her to. She was used to me being the one who reached out. It probably felt normal to her. But, by the third week, the quiet must have started to stretch. That's when I saw her name flash across my phone screen. A short text. Hey, you okay? I stared at it for a moment, then locked the phone and set it down. I didn't reply. That alone felt heavier than any argument we could have had. It wasn't about playing games. It wasn't about being cold. I just didn't have anything left to explain. She tried again a few days later. This time, it was a voicemail. I didn't listen to the whole thing. Her voice sounded unsure, maybe a little frustrated. She asked why I hadn't called, told me she was just checking in, but it didn't sound like someone checking in. It sounded like someone wondering where their anchor had gone. I could tell she was confused. I had never pulled away before. I had always made room for her, even when it cost me peace. But now, for the first time, I was quiet, and silence has a way of echoing louder than words. She sent flowers on Mother's Day, a bouquet of lilies with a typed note that said, "Love you, Mom." No call, no visits, just flowers from a distance. I placed them in a vase by the window. They were beautiful, yes, but they didn't mean what they used to. I watched them wilt day by day, petals curling inward. Some part of me still wanted her to show up, not with gifts, just her presence, her honesty. But she didn't, and I didn't ask. That mutual distance became our new language. My friends started to notice. One asked if Lauren was coming for Thanksgiving. I smiled and said, "She's got other plans." Then I changed the subject. It wasn't bitterness I felt. It was something softer. Acceptance, maybe. I had always believed a mother's love was supposed to be endless. But even wells run dry if no one comes to refill them. And mine had been empty for a while. Still, I waited. Not with hope, just out of habit. And eventually, she did come, but not in the way I expected. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon when she finally showed up. No warning, no call, just the sound of her car pulling into the driveway. I saw her through the curtains standing by the door, fidgeting with her keys, biting her lip like she used to when she was nervous as a kid. I opened the door slowly. She looked surprised, like she wasn't sure I'd answer. "Hi," she said. "Hi," I replied, keeping my hand on the edge of the door. She hesitated. "Can I come in?" I nodded and stepped aside. The house smelled like cinnamon. I had baked muffins that morning, something to pass the time. They sat on the counter, still warm. She glanced at them but didn't say anything. She sat at the kitchen table, the same chair she had sat in months before. I stayed standing for a moment, then slowly took the seat across from her. There was a long silence, not angry, just heavy. Then she spoke. "I don't understand what's going on. You haven't been calling. You didn't text on my birthday. You single quotes, different." I folded my hands in my lap, looked down at them. They looked older than I remembered. "I stopped," I said quietly. She looked confused. "Stopped what?" I looked up, met her eyes. "Stopped trying, stopped chasing, stopped filling in the space you left." She blinked. "Is this about that one conversation we had?" I let out a soft breath, not a sigh, just enough to keep my voice steady. It wasn't just one conversation, Lauren. It was years of giving and never being seen. It was the way you spoke to me that day, like everything I did was small, like it meant nothing. She shifted in her seat. "I didn't mean it like that. I was just being honest." "I know," I said, "and I heard you. You said I didn't do enough. So I stopped doing anything at all." That sentence hung in the air between us. She looked away, out the window. The neighbor's wind chime tinkled faintly in the breeze. "I didn't think it would hurt you like this," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "That's the thing. You didn't think." She didn't cry. Neither did I. We just sat in it, whatever this was. "I don't know how to fix it." She finally said, "I'm not asking you to fix it." I said, "I'm just asking you to see it." And for the first time in a long time, I think she did. We didn't hug. We didn't make promises. But we stayed in that silence together. And that was a start. We didn't talk much after that day. Not right away. But the silence between us started to feel different. Less like a wall, more like a pause. A pause where something else could begin if we both wanted it to. She called a week later, just to say hi. Her voice was softer, not careful, not rehearsed, just present. That mattered more than any apology. I didn't expect a grand change. I wasn't looking for one. I didn't need her to rewrite the past. I just needed her to see me now, and she did, slowly. She started stopping by once in a while, sometimes with leftover soup, sometimes with nothing but time. No big speeches, no fixing, just showing up. And I let her. One morning, she texted me a photo of an old birthday card I had given her, said she found it in a box while cleaning. She wrote, "I didn't get it then, I think I do now." That was enough. I still live my quiet life. I water my garden, I read my books, I go on walks when the sun's low and the air smells like cut grass. There's peace in doing things for myself now, not because I'm waiting for someone to notice, but because I want to. That's new for me. I don't hold on to anger. Not because I've forgotten, but because it takes up too much room. She's not the child I raised anymore. And I'm not the mother who gave until I disappeared. We're two women learning how to meet again this time, as we are, and I'm okay with that. Sometimes, love doesn't disappear, it just changes shape. And when we stop giving from an empty place, we make room for something quieter and stronger. I've learned that stepping back isn't always giving up. Sometimes, it's finally choosing peace. Have you ever had to let go in order to feel seen? If this story touched something in you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like more honest emotional stories like this one, feel free to like the video and subscribe. I share something new every day. Thank you for listening.